Who am I to be afraid of death? He is a man I've always known, and he's known me longer than that.
Belisarius.
Fear. Fear finds its hatching ground in uncertainty. It is the leftover residue of our ancestral response to dangers in the wild, way back when we were hunter-gatherers. Fear teaches us to be cautious. Your emotions are not working against you, they are working for you. But they are not always correct, because we haven't adapted to this unfamiliar reality in which we find ourselves. We are, as Nietzsche said, the great unadapted animal. We're not supposed to live in this modern way. Nothing has changed in our body and our instincts, and so they become muddled relative to our new environment. The subconscious brain, where the fear instinct resides, has governed the human animal for far, far longer than our rational mind. The subconscious is the wise old man, who may not make sense to the young whippersnapper of the conscious brain, but the subconscious knows what is out there beyond the reeds and in the darkness. Every emotion and instinct is trying to say something to you. However, you are the king of the court. Your emotions are your divine counsel, so you have to decide how to appease, instruct, and rule them. You must not silence them, because the clamour of the crowd will only increase. Your emotions are archetypes, and they are always telling you something. Fear is telling you there is uncertainty, and life is uncertain. And we strive towards certainty. We strive to create order out of chaos. But you cannot ignore fear when he has something to say. He's reminding you of a force that will never leave, never go abated. Fear is helping you to understand and overcome uncertainty. Your fear is a companion, a little daemon that comes with you who knows intimately the great horrors of life, but you haven't. You've come from the spirit, a place without fear. But he's there to teach you until you've assimilated him and you no longer need his help. That isn't to say there is no fear, but you can imbibe these emotions, these little deities, these companions, and build them into yourself. What springs from the well of your sovereign individuality is also there in the collective consciousness, mirroring back at you with fear, but also with love. Fundamentally, you've got this, but you need to prove it to yourself. And if you've done it before in other lives, and it is there in your very DNA through your ancestors, the imprint of these experiences are there in your personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, like whispers on the wind and rustlings in the leaves.
One time, I remember this one time, they choked me out, and also it was like a black knight with a sword goes, and attacks me on this horse, and then it went, and then I was in England thousands of years ago, and I had this wife, these kids, and it was a whole lifetime taking care of them and growing food, and a kid starved to death and died, and it was just those moments were whole lives, dead kids, everything. That's what I'm saying. You dial into all those ancestors, and it was my kids and kids starving to death and people attacking us.
So you think all that information from your ancestors somehow or another encoded somewhere in your body?
It's definitely encoded, Joe. Our whole bodies are everybody before us.
Right.
They underestimate. They go, "Oh, I lived before." No, they all lived before. It looks like our species is super old.
How old?
I don't know, because I can't even interpret the stuff I see. Whatever created us is super badass.
You also know this from your first experience in life. Think about this. You came into the world as a baby without the ability to function or express your feelings at all. And yet over time you began piece by piece to order the chaos you witnessed around you. Being a newborn is like being in the most violent, hallucinogenic experience you can imagine. Nothing made sense. Form and color made no sense to you. But you started to figure it out. How to be, how to move, how to grow. And it was certainly the most terrifying experience of your life. And because of that, you don't remember it. You embedded it in your personal unconscious, but it is there. The initial overcoming of being born never leaves us. And that can be a power that you can tap into. When you're a baby, you're literally tripping balls because nothing makes sense. Not even faces really make sense. And you slowly piece together the insanity in front of you. So take solace in this, as it's highly unlikely you'll ever have to order such chaos as you did when you were born. And if you've done it once, that means you have the capacity within you to do it again. It is the power of having overcome this initial chaos of being born and being a baby in a world of insanity. So what is anger? Anger protects you. It demands higher standards. Your frustration demands higher standards because it believes that you deserve better, and it's trying to give you power. Remind you that you've done it before, and its essence is forever in the unconscious, waiting to be utilized by you. You ignore anger and he morphs and atrophies and then transforms into resentment, a far worse form of anger. It would have been smarter for you to deal with it earlier on, but now you have resentment and you have to deal with that also. Resentment is not the demand for higher standards, but the sole focus on destroying the obstacle, that which caused the anger in the first place. True resentment is the bubbling swamp festering and releasing noxious odors, and it is grim and evil. The final form of resentment lies in envy. And envy is the worst of all emotions. Envy is not jealousy. Envy is destruction, because it says, if I can't have it, then I'll destroy it and make sure nobody else can either. There is nuance to your emotions. Anger should not always be let go, because, to quote the infamous Jonathan Bowden, love is fury. And the righteous indignation is the most powerful sword that can be wielded against those that seek to destroy what you love. So pay attention to anger. Don't let it consume you and force you to make a mistake, but pay attention to what it's telling you and stand up for yourself. Anger is often a sign that your boundaries have been crossed. And until you deal with it, they will continue to be crossed. And your boundaries are everything. Without them, you have no self-respect. And if emotions are not properly exercised, they will fester and boil, and eventually cause real illness. So what about failure? Everyone fails. In fact, those who shoot the highest often fail the hardest, because the final failure is the final boss. Willing to fail is what makes you succeed. There is no problem with humbling yourself, admitting you're not good enough, rather than pretending to be so. When you admit that and say it's okay, you will find that you start to unlock things you didn't know before. This works in tandem with overcoming your shadow and integrating it, because those feelings of inadequacy, lack of strength, lack of will, lack of control, if you can't admit them first, you can never overcome them. The beautiful thing about risk and failure and success is you put yourself in a situation without having planned too much for how it will play out. Because the situation itself is the catalyst, allowing you to drag out of your own unconscious the solution that is already inside of you. You have the tools you need, but they often are lying in dormant. Once you awaken these tools, raise them up to the conscious level, you have these tools forever. So think of a good enough reason to live. Really think and focus on it. What will take you up the mountain is to truly understand why you are climbing it in the first place. You need a vision. Then, when the vision is achieved, say a family, a stable job, or a healthy friend network, you will find another mountain laid out in front of you. So now what is your vision? You don't need to know the final vision, but just enough to conceive of its potential. And truly, you need a spiritual vision. That goes beyond all other visions, beyond money, beyond comfort, beyond physical freedom. You need spiritual freehood. You need the house, you need the family. You also need the grand, lucid narrative if you truly want to understand who you are and why you want to live. As Nietzsche said, reason gives catharsis. Any reason is better than no reason, even if it begins as an entirely delusional reason. You are led by your vision. It is your lighthouse, your lantern in the mist. If you're willing to let go of everything, that is when you can go all in. What if you have nothing to lose? Only he who is willing to let go of his life gains his life. And if you do that in the moment you come to meet who you truly are, if you're going to go out with a bang. There is a certain divine madness that must be cultivated quietly in your bones to overcome the tribulations of life. Only those on the path of individuation, those who can call themselves to be truly alive, carry within them this secret madness. A kind of delirious self-belief, this fire inside of you that you must kindle. You'll know it when you feel it. It rushes through you, the same feeling that one gets from an excellent performance in sport or the arts, and you'll know when you don't feel it. On the grey, miserable morning, your eyes bleary, your head pounding from a hangover. You want to keep this secret madness consistent. Of course, all things are subject to the law of polarity and rhythm and diminishing returns, so it will leave you, but if you hone yourself to find it again, you'll find it again quickly. To quote the author Jack London, I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom of me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy and permanent planet. The function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. So how do you find your vision? Well, this is what Goethe said. The moment you finally commit yourself to a task, the providence also moves. All sorts of things that otherwise would never have happened come to help you. A whole stream of events is set in motion by the decision, and it provides in one's favor numerous unforeseen coincidences, encounters, and material help that no man could ever have dreamed of before. Whatever you can, begin it. Boldness carries genius, power and magic. Begin now. So simply put, you must move forward. Trust the process. Trust that you're going in the right direction. And by going in the right direction, you're doing the right thing. You, the ego, gets stuck up in your thoughts, your ruminations, your doubts, your fears, and your anxieties. This is when you need to introduce something else, some instinctual, animalistic, emotional function. You must not be governed by them, but use them as fuel. Join the head and the heart, go down into your body, feel your hands. Go into your emotions and ask yourself, what value do these have? All these instincts and emotions, they're neither evil nor perfect, but they certainly have a purpose. And it is always, eventually, for your benefit. If you can accept them, if you can understand them, and if you can integrate them. All emotions are really there fundamentally to raise the bar for you and guide you towards your ideal self. Your ideal self, what is that? It's a form of you, your true ideal form, the one carved by ancient Greek sculptors. These ideal forms that we look at and we say, can I become? All your drives and emotions point to this. Your emotions have innate and ancient intelligence, but it must be pulled out of them. You want boundaries and self-respect. You want discipline, drive to work, find your money-making ability, your charisma and your beauty to attract the women or men that you want. You can't have it all if you face yourself with equanimity, compassion, discipline, and an undying enthusiasm for your heroic, ideal self. You can idolize others to an extent. You can study what makes them the heroic ideal, but the truth is, the real purpose is that you know who you are. That is the fundamental purpose of life and why you're here. It's to know what you're capable of. And even if all the extraneous events go negatively, if you have bad fortune completely none of your doing, as long as you are peeling back the never-ending onion of who you are, then you are truly living. A life unexamined is not a life worth living at all, said Socrates. Once you have committed to this, then you can truly begin on your journey. Then you can figure out what your first steps are. Ask yourself, what are your emotions? Write them down. The ultimate one to pay attention to is your fear. It will tell you where you are uncertain and where you are insecure. So ask yourself, what are the 5 things you're afraid of? For example, a lot of people say public speaking, being your true self, physical violence, not living up to who you think you should be or who others think you should be, going out and talking to strangers. Next, go into the experiences you're afraid of, again and again and again. If you do this, your confidence will go up. For example, one thing I did was to speak truthfully about my reality, about the way I see the world. When I didn't face this fear, it was a weight so devastating to my higher self, I could never keep on the right path in life. I did all the other things, the physique, the training, the diets, but I was lying to myself and withholding how I felt about fear. But when I started to say how I really felt about the life, about the world, I found I could verbalize my opinions with clarity. And this had a good effect on people. Suddenly I realized I actually knew and could speak about a variety of different things with charisma and erudition because I had a passion. I was vibing with myself without the fear of what others thought. And you know what? I actually got respect. The reality is most people, even the ones who appear like they have their shit together, actually have no real idea what they're doing. Seriously. You can take some of the most quote-unquote successful people in the world and take them through simple Socratic reasoning regarding some topic that's happening in the world today, and they'll fall apart because they are not clear on what's going on around them. The beautiful thing here is you can repeat this exercise of writing your fears and planning to overcome them again. And if you repeat the steps you did before, it will work again. But you do have to do this. And how far are you willing to push it? How far are you willing to go? There's only one way to find out. Just take one step forward in each little direction of your fears and see what you're confronted with. Because doing these fear-fronting techniques is not only bettering you, but it's redeeming the world in some sense. To put meaning into what otherwise could appear nihilistic and chaotic. To find your purpose, you must follow the road to it. Imagine it like a shining city you've never been to, and you're a hopeful traveler on that yellow brick road. As you step towards it, the purpose will reveal itself. And it's not until you've moved your heavy feet towards the unknown that you'll begin to make it out with more clarity.